I don't think you guys are going to hear it, though. I'm live, so let's do this.
Maybe be quiet or you'll ruin the whole thing.
This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that's doing this for what you're gonna do. And now, our feature presentation.
It's just like the old Action Cast, except we're old and even less people give a shit.
That's right, it's true. It's true.
Cool. It's great.
But we're here.
It's great.
And we're ready, and there's Bryce, front and center, the first thing people see. But this is, in fact, the Action Cast, and we're talking...
there's no cute GIFs and streaming stuff this time. It's just this haggard visage.
It's just that, yeah, well, if somebody else talks, it'll be them. But for some reason, if I talk, it doesn't put me up there. I can put myself up there. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Drilling. This is the Action Cast. And with me is Bryce Wilson, as you saw, and Eric Stephen Allen, who looks suspiciously like a Bulbasaur today, for some reason.
I went 10 rounds with John J. Sullivan himself.
Well, I saw Tyson beat Spinks on TV, so... and then we've got two bouncing blue blobs in the form of Anthony Rogers and Alex Rio, and allegedly a man with a dog, Ethan Cheng, but I don't know if he's here or not. I can't tell, so...
We can dream of Ethan Cheng.
We can dream.
Two androids.
Hey guys, I gotta
of Ethan Cheng. Is this a thing? Am I onto something, guys?
Yeah.
I'm
yes,
into it.
yes, you
I
are.
like it.
Okay, cool.
I like it.
Thanks.
I'm not happy with my opening line. I should have said freeze.
I don't know if that would read it.
Why would you say that? I'm not frozen. So before we get into the movie, while we give Ethan a little more runway to get everything set up on his side, I think we've got at least two bits of Action Cast action movie news. So we've got a sound effect for that too. I have no idea how these sound effects are going to work live, but we're going to give it a try. We're going.
Okay.
Go for it.
It's happening.
This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes,
Wow, it
and
sounds
we'll give
great.
you the world.
Good. I'm glad it did.
You
I'm
let us
glad
know
it
when they're
sounded
done.
great. Yeah, it's done. They're done. So,
Okay, great.
Bryce, I think you have a piece of action movie news that you just sent me.
Are we talking about? Yeah, Criterion announced that the 5 canonical Bruce Lee films are going to be released this summer on Criterion, and oh Lord, they just went my discretionary income for the summer. So much excite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, looks like they're all getting 4K restorations except for Enter the Dragon for some reason, which is going to be 2K.
Except for the
except for the
theatrical
one that everybody
version
likes.
of no, it is the
No, both of them. Yeah,
both of them.
But there looks like there's a lot of great stuff. Like there's a documentary about Bruceploitation and a collection of Bruceploitation trailers, and
And
a
a
lot of supplemental nonsense.
the high
Looks
definition presentation of Game of Death 2, which
Mhm.
I think
I was
in and of
actually kind of
itself
excited to see
counts
that.
as a Bruceploitation movie. I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Well, that does have a little bit of precedent because I have the Lone Wolf and Cub box that they did, and they put on the Shogun Assassin cuts on that. So I feel like it's a similar spirit. So
yeah, for sure. And I have the Godzilla Criterion. It was Criterion 1000 was their big Godzilla Showa era set, and not all of them, because I think there were weird licensing issues, but a lot of them have the American cuts of those movies.
Eric, who took your Bulbasaur? Why have we been denied?
What are you talking about? That's still a Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got a ton of stuff. As I was telling you,
Yes.
and as we were chatting earlier, I have all those Bruce Lee movies. I have the old Blu-ray of Enter the Dragon, which actually was one of the first Blu-rays I got. And then I have like a 4-pack of, I don't remember what label put it out, but it's the 4 other canonical Bruce Lee movies on Blu-ray. But I'll probably double dip for the Criterion collection because I like all the stuff they put on there.
I'm actually I don't usually double dip, but the Enter the Dragon I still have an old DVD copy of, and then I think all the other ones I have dollar store DVDs of it. So I'll show up for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
That one's not going to bug me.
Yeah.
So
in sadder action movie news, Stuart Gordon, who is known more as a horror director, I suppose, a genre figure, died at the end of March, unfortunately, at the age of 72. And
pour one out.
Yeah, pour one out. He was a big figure in live theater as well. He started the Organic Theater Company in Chicago after getting kicked out of UW-Madison, which was a theater company that did a lot of David Mamet's early... In fact, he directed a TV version of Bleacher Bums, which is like a fairly well-known Chicago play. Joe Montaigne was in the original live theater cast. But he's most well-known for doing Reanimator and From Beyond, and and he co-wrote the screenplay to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which I think is what kept him flush with cash for probably most of his life after that.
Yeah, he was a creative, kinky weirdo, and I really wish we had let him make the Poe biopic that he was trying to get made for the last couple of years of his life.
Yes,
so.
absolutely. I really would have liked to see that.
I want you to know that I was gonna say Reanimator is great, but I was on mute, and then I wanted to type in, so I wanted to type in the name so I could look at the cover of it, and instead I typed Reanimator is great into Google. So
what came up when you typed in Reanimator is great?
Same title, the same box art.
Yeah.
So
just a lot of people saying yes. Yes, Reanimator is great.
Yes, it is.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
We put on From Beyond when I heard that he died, and that, I mean, as great as Reanimator is, like, From Beyond is just this wild, kinky cartoon of a movie with physical effects and just lots of gore and tons of bad taste, and it's super funny. And if you happen to have seen Reanimator and not From Beyond, I highly recommend From Beyond. And might as well just do this officially. There was some chatter in the email chain, but I am definitely nominating either Robot Jocks or Fortress for the next cast.
Yeah,
so.
Robot Jocks or Fortress. I'm nominating for the...
I don't know what either of those are, but I like the title.
Robot Jocks is a movie. It's post-World War III, and the only form of war that is allowed is when giant robots punch each other. That's how all international disputes are now settled.
That can't possibly be as good.
That's fucking G Gundam, dude. That's ridiculous.
It is exactly G Gundam.
It is exactly G Gundam.
I believe it predates G Gundam, though. I'm fairly
Gundam
certain.
and sticker, I guarantee you. So.
Are all the robots horrible racist caricatures?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then it's
been a while.
G Gundam has something on it then.
No,
yeah.
He also directed Dagon, which Smoke Monster recommended to me on a live stream we did a little while ago, and I still haven't watched it, but yeah, I've heard it's pretty good. I mean, he's done it. He did a bunch of H.P. Lovecraft adaptations, including Reanimator, so Dagon's another one of those. So, but yeah, Fortress is the Christopher Lambert movie where...
so you know it's good.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know it's good.
Lots of different places.
The Lambert seal of quality.
Yeah, it's like a future prison.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like a future prison movie with Christopher Lambert. It's like...
It's just Braden with two thumbs up.
Yep. So... Yeah, but I mean, Stuart Gordon really was, if nothing else, for Reanimator.
Wait, I have a new joke.
Wait, Christopher Lambert was in a Kurosawa
there can be only
movie?
one. What?
Oh, God.
I said Christopher Lambert was in a Kurosawa movie?
Yes.
Yes, he was. Hey, Christopher Lambert was in a Coen Brothers movie, and that's almost as weird. So
that is kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that one.
But yeah, Reanimator.
Eric, why does your camera make it look like you're being haunted by a Japanese ghost right now?
How much you been drinking, Bryce?
Because he's also
How much has your camera been drinking?
Yeah, right. Is Eric pouring one out for who? The director of House also just died.
Sad.
The Japanese movie House, not the American movie House, also died. That's not, as strictly speaking, action movie news, I guess, but also a bummer. So
worth noting for one of the weirdest films ever made. So
look, man, there are only so many movies in which a piano eats a teenage girl, and and
that's one of them.
That's one of them. So you know, I don't know, man. You know, sometimes you just gotta go with the movie where the piano eats the teenage girl. So, yeah. I think that's it for news. Anybody else got any newses to talk about?
No.
With everything going on in the world right now, the newses are slow.
Yeah, there's no movies right now, so there's not really a lot of movie news, you know?
Yeah. So, I
Uh,
guess.
Way to be a bummer.
Yeah.
Something about like Mulan was delayed.
Yeah. That's
That's my
technically
news.
kind of an action movie, I guess. Yeah.
Something.
Something, I don't know, Bloodshot, now available streaming at home.
I heard
on
that
all
was actually
platforms.
like kind of fun. I haven't watched.
I heard it was super awful, and I know that I don't care, so that's...
Bloodshot, a bomb for a weary world.
I mean, Vin Diesel is pretty self-aware at this point, so I feel like,
Right.
you know, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so this month's movie is we were gonna do Pentathlon with Dolph Lundgren,
I managed to watch it.
but Bryce is the only one who managed to find it not in French or Russian, apparently.
But then someone went back in time and changed.
Is it all right if I ask where you got your hands on it? Or is that something that we can discuss in private?
Just
Before
generic.
Eric dies of radiation poisoning.
Yeah. Generic, sketchy streaming site is where I got it. Yeah.
I was gonna say that I'm sure Bryce just owned it on DVD already.
There was a time
It's
where all those
wasn't a great movie.
there was a time where all those weird old movies were on Pirate Bay, but they're just all gone now. Like the torrents are still there, but nobody seeds them anymore because streaming services killed all that.
Because all 10 of the people who wanted Pentathlon have it now.
Honestly, the only reason I was looking forward to talking about it was so I could have the chance to talk about how much I love Dolph in Creed 2, but that has gone from us now. So
flown from your life.
You know what? Spoiler alert for Creed 2. I'm still gonna get it. Is that that ending for Drago's character of him sacrificing victory because he decides he cares about his son more is so great because it's such the anti-Drago thing to do, but it is so earned, script and by Dolph's performance in it that it's just like, I had such feelings at that moment.
So wait, that movie's not.
There you go. That's all I had to say about Pentathlon.
Dolph Lundgren manages to be something other than awkward in that movie.
Well, no, he's actually very awkward because he's somewhat. Well, that's great because he plays him as like someone who has gone from like living under government control in a lab his whole life to like someone who's now like in a single dirty ass apartment in like the former Soviet bloc country living with his son. But like I said, he's got a moment there at the end where he has to make a decision, and the decision he makes is like very much one you would not expect that character to make, but he sells it, and it's like just this really kind of sweet, perfect note to end the film on, and mwah. So thank you, Dolph, and thank you for not making me talk about Pentathlon. So it all works out.
Yeah, I also love that Alex got Pentathlon confused with Gymkata, which is like not an unreasonable mistake to
We
make.
should have done Gymkata instead.
For two movies I've never seen that are about like the Olympics and fighting. I mean, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the film's about 95 minutes long, and I'd say there's maybe 11 minutes of action. The best part's when Dolph kicks someone on a bicycle. This guy's coming by with a silenced pistol to shoot Dolph, and he just like kicks him, and the guy does like a full front flip on the bicycle and lands on his head. That was pretty great.
Nice.
The rest of it, yeah.
Nice.
Not too much to say.
Speaking of kicking someone on wheels,
yes.
the movie we did watch is Timecop, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Ron Silver, Mia Sara, and a lot of people you probably never... a couple of that guy.
So here was
some of the most amazing henchmen you have ever seen in a movie.
It is a time travel movie where 80% of the movie takes place in 1994. So take that as you will. So
it's
when this movie was
right.
released.
It takes place in the present functionally. And also, as my wife pointed out when we were watching it, all of the fashion in the future is just like it's barely changed. Like the 2004 fashions are still the 1994 fashions, especially at the very end when he goes home.
Fashion achieved perfection.
Yes,
Where you
yes,
get
of
He
course.
did. It's hard to argue
So-
with.
I feel like what everybody, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I remember it, but like I watched recently an episode of Star Trek Voyager where it was made in 1996 and they go
No,
back
that's
in
just
time.
you.
What?
No one else watched Voyager.
I know. That was just, this was like unrelated to this. Was before we even decided to do this, and it was set in 1996. It was made in 1996, and when they were in 1996 Los Angeles, quote unquote, the outfits everyone was wearing were like nobody wore that in Nobody wore that in like any time. You know what I mean? It's like those are not human beings. Like what the fuck is this? And I felt like the same way watching this. I was like, dude, people didn't like. It wasn't as bad in this case, but I was like, was that really what everybody looked like in the 90s? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like,
I mean, the number one henchman who has like a mullet mohawk with braids and like
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
metal
Like, the
shin
other-
guards and a black leather jacket that he's got like buttoned, but underneath it is like the loudest, like not quite Hawaiian shirt, but
Yeah.
like it's this like multicolored, every omnidirectional stripes, like you
an
know,
amazing Technicolor something.
yeah,
I
it looks
don't know
like
what.
a trapper keeper threw up on his chest, and it's just like the most perfect henchman outfit that has ever existed in a movie. But my big problem with this movie is it does some smart things with the time. So every time travel movie kind of brings something unique to the table, and the only ones that have really tried. The only one that I can think of that has really tried to be true to the notion of like what if time travel is Primer, and by the end of that movie, the first time you watch it, you kind of feel like your brain is going to leak out your ear a little bit because it's so hung up on the finer points of time travel. This movie is the opposite of that. This movie, the entire plot is a time travel paradox. Like it doesn't make sense if you think about it for more than 5 seconds.
I'm gonna.
But the movie does not encourage you to do
Yeah.
so.
Exactly.
No, it certainly
Yeah,
does not.
So here's the part that I got confused about. Was the Ron Silver character supposed to be a continuation of his character from Blue Steel, or no?
This is a stealth sequel to Blue Steel.
Yeah, a stealth sequel to Blue Steel. But that was my joke. That was the one I had for
That
the
was
whole
good.
episode.
So-
that was the one joke I had in
All right,
the
well,
chat.
see you later, Bryce. It's been nice talking
Yeah.
to you.
Did he also play Donald Trump in Blue Steel? Because,
Yeah.
like,
I really like
literally,
that. In the there's like two Ron Silvers in this movie, right? There's the one from
Right.
1994, the one from 2004, and the one from 1994 just seems kind of like sad, and then the one from 2004 is Donald Trump,
yeah.
and it's like, what the hell? What happened in 10 years? I guess it's like time travel corrupts you or something. I guess maybe that's
all
maybe
right.
that's what this movie
But,
was
like,
trying to say.
So this,
Let's start from the beginning here.
Yeah.
So did that Civil War scene actually I feel like is one of the cooler scenes in the film, and like
Agreed,
I'm
but
a-
there's nothing else like
and
it.
it's,
yeah, and I was gonna say
it also has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
I was gonna say, did that have anything to do with anything?
The
'Cause, like,
only-
I kept like waiting for it, like they were doing like heists so they could fund his presidential campaign or whatever.
The
And
only-
I'm like, is the Confederate gold supposed to be like funding? What does this have to do with anything?
The only thing it has to do with anything is that it serves as justification for the time
Yeah.
cops to exist. Like, that's it.
Because like they say that terrorists did it or something. So like
Right,
so
they're like
now-
buying arms from Iran or whatever, and they used Confederate gold, and they found out that it was Confederate gold that was stolen by this time
Yeah.
traveler.
That's one of the things that I can't tell if I like or hate about this movie is whether because they don't bother to explain how anything works and or who has access to the technology or how evil people
Yeah.
would get access to it in the first place.
So they kind of.
Like, how
So
did
I
that
was
guy
waiting.
go back in time? Was
Yeah.
he like just like a buddy of the dude who made
Who
the
invented the time machine?
And
Yeah.
Is like that how he got access? Like some guy was
I'm
like
gonna-
invented it in his garage and then called his neighbor over, and his neighbor nefariously snuck into the time machine at night and tried to rob Confederate gold. Like,
Yeah,
where did the evil guys get
with the
access
Tech
from?
Nine? Yeah,
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
rest of the evil guys are the cops. So it's just like if they hadn't
Well,
bothered
'cause
making
it's
the
the-
cops and just destroyed the machine in the first place, and they don't really justify why the time, like, what's the investment of having the time travel thing if nobody wants to change it?
Yeah, the dude, like the bad guy in like the third or fourth scene was like in the present was like, I just want to defund this rather than, like, I just want
Yeah.
to prevent time travel rather than
Well, right. So
Like,
he's
he
the
wanted
only
to
one who
get his
has
money.
it.
policing it.
then
It's like,
stop
yeah, that's a way
time
better
travel.
idea.
Yeah.
So he So they actually do. They don't explain the first guy, the guy who steals the Confederate gold. That's never explained, but they do explain later that. So the guy that Van Damme goes back to the Depression to get was a rogue time cop, and then the dude, the senator, Ron Silver's character, Senator McComb, has the prototype. The prototype was never dismantled. So
once again, we have to go out of our way to establish that this is a time travel movie that maybe, if I'm being generous, spends 12 minutes in like period times. There's like that little opening with the Confederates, and that's like some cosplayers on horses for 3 minutes. Whose mic am I echoing on? Anyway, and then there's the Depression scene, which is like some people in
Ethan's
fancy
here.
suits.
There's 2 Ethans.
Yeah.
They're
Everyone's
multiplying.
echoing. Shoot, we invited a time paradox by talking about Timecop.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, and then
Ethan, don't touch yourself. You'll turn to goo.
there's that. Okay, if we're talking about that, I think that's my favorite point. The thing is when he kicks 94 Ron Silver into 2004 Ron Silver, it takes like 10 seconds of Ron Silver standing there screaming for him to like hit. Like he could have moved out of the way.
Yeah, at any time.
Ron Silver at any time. But anyway, and then like you have like 2 seconds out on a on the street with like some fancy cars in the 30s segment, and that's it. Mm-hmm. That is all you get. That is the magic of time travel.
Well, so at least for me, I was like, man, they're back in the 90s. But when this movie came out, it was the 90s.
It was the 90s. Almost all of the movie
But
takes
now-
place in the time period it was.
Yeah, now that was like almost 30 years ago.
And the only difference
It has to
between
be 90% of the film. Like
Right.
that's what kills me.
the difference between 2004 and 1994 is the cars are like hella uglier in 2004.
His apartment's got like some what I would call cyber equipment in it.
I mean, does it?
I said some, not like
Right,
a lot.
Here's the crazy thought that I had watching this is that scene where he's like playing back the videos of his wife and he's talking.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
Spielberg saw Timecop before he made Minority
Yeah,
Report,
I said the exact
and
same
like
thing.
had that scenes with Tom Cruise is talking along with the old hologram.
For a
videos of
while,
his
this movie is just
Yeah,
Minority
see,
Report. Yeah.
So I
it's
can
weird.
almost guarantee Minority Report's a great movie. Hey, I'm here. I don't know what happened. I'm in an
Is that the dog or Ethan talking?
I'm in an incognito window because this is like this is porn to me now.
Oh
You don't want anybody to
yeah.
know what you've been up
That should be
to.
the new slogan for the new old
Yeah. This
The
is
action
porn now.
cast. Report you now.
Yeah, Minority Report's a great movie. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd
that
go
I'm
so far as
going
say it's a
to-
great
that I-
movie.
No. It's very solid. It's got
fine. Yeah,
parts
it's
that I
solid.
never really
Solid is a
found.
good
Minority
report.
Report's probably top 10 Spielberg for me personally.
I think that I'll probably want to see this movie again sooner than I want to see Minority Report again.
So
That's why
here,
it's important. That's important why we have Ethan on this, so we get the Minority Report on this.
Well, here's the thing. My thing about this movie is the way that I had mythologized it in my brain is that the plot was super dumb, but at least the kicking was good. But as it turns out, the plot is like marginally more interesting, and the kicking is terrible because it's all edited not quite like a 2004 action movie, which would have been appropriate, but like pretty close. Like the camera doesn't shake, but there's like 17 edits.
Yeah, it's really choppy and really weird.
Yeah, and then the whole end scene where there's actually like not as many edits is all in the dark anyways.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say to me it wasn't
Yeah.
the editing, it's the cinematography that was like fucking up the action. So
Yeah.
it's Peter Hyams. There's so many choices to make for what he's doing incompetently. You know, it's,
Yeah.
The fights in this movie aren't great, but I've always thought that martial arts fights in action movies, especially from this era, it's high risk, high reward, and they're like these are low reward, but there's very little fighting. Like we don't see that much martial arts fighting, and I think that was
until
a good
the end when
choice.
it's all in the dark.
Well, we still don't see
And
it.
the rain.
Yes, and the rain. Although he snaps that dude's neck with the amazing haircut and ensemble that I discussed earlier, which is pretty good. A good neck snap is helps go a long way.
Was that? I thought it was really nice of Jerry Saggs to lose a bunch of weight for this movie. Was that him? His neck got snapped, or did he die earlier?
That was his
That was
one
him,
shot
but-
when Oscar was losing all the money to play the main thug in Timecop, but it didn't work out, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep.
Honestly, my favorite action beat in this movie might be him making the guy read the bottom of his boot at the very beginning.
That's
Like,
pretty
it's
good.
Like,
I
The
love
rollerblader thief that
Yes.
steals that woman's purse.
Yes. I love the moment
That's
in
future
theory.
crime right there.
In theory, I love the moment when he kicks that dude's frozen arm off. But it's
Yeah, that was-
garbage
it looks
tier
really
1994 CG, and it looks
I actually
awful.
love that, like completely and totally.
That's hilarious. 'Cause that would have been the worst scene in the movie until like he once again kicks
Kicks Ron Silver
President
into
Ron
himself.
Silver back, and he's like, you cannot exaggerate how long it takes President Ron Silver to hit future Ron Silver. It is a good 12 count, and the whole time he's awkwardly green screened and just going like like,
Right.
Well,
waiting.
he
It's
was
like-
brought to himself by time magnetism.
yes, exactly.
It
So
was-
actually,
it was Final Fantasy VIII style time compression seeds.
so I will say that conceptually, even though I think that is dumb and doesn't make any sense, it's at least a fun twist on the time travel formula. Like, it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't be able to touch yourself. That's
I'm on an incognito window, so I can touch
yes,
myself.
So Ethan can touch him, and his camera's not on, so Ethan can touch himself as much as he wants.
Is it considered masturbation if you go back in time and turn yourself into goo?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before I try it out, I want to make sure.
They do a
Depends on what
good-
you mean by
I-
turning yourself into goo.
Yeah.
They do, and I didn't build the fucking thing in this movie, which I always love that in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that too. Like, I like that they don't, like we were saying earlier, that it's frustrating in some aspects that they don't explain anything, mostly like how the bad guys have time travel, until they explain that Ron Silver has has the old, the prototype or whatever.
Joe?
Yes, I mean Aaron McComb. But
Senator?
like, I appreciate they don't try to explain, like, this is how time travel works, and like, this is the guy, the doctor or whatever, this was his breakthrough discovery, and blah blah blah. Like, I don't really care about all that shit, especially in a movie like this, and like, that would just be a drag.
Yeah, but they show you the cool shit
Right.
without having the exposition of the cool shit, because I think that takeoff scene with the wall with the blood splatters on it, it's amazing. I love it.
Yes.
This is a great movie, guys.
So I joked about
Uh,
I joked about Ron Silver being Donald Trump, but there's literally a scene in this movie where he gets in his limo and his chief of staff is explaining that how he
looks like one of Trump's kids.
Well, yeah, actually, his chief of staff looks like Eric Trump, but
One of the guy's direct quotes is that we need someone in the White House who isn't beholden to all the special interests, who has enough money that they won't be beholden to all the special interests.
right. But then he talks about how he's doing well. He's polling well with the close the borders, America first demographic, and the anti-abortion, pro-death penalty demographic, and the like.
There's a newscast in the background where they talk about how the white supremacist party gets equal funding, and somebody wants to change it so that not all the different.
Can I make
absolutely.
Can I make my one joke that I had ready before we started tonight?
Yeah.
In that scene where they mentioned the white supremacist party, I said, "Oh, you mean the Republicans?" Anyway,
that was not a joke, though.
Yes, true.
I don't have a joke about this movie because I don't think it's good to joke about. It's a great movie. But there's one part about this movie that's weak. It's just an image in the movie.
Just one.
And it's in the scene with the taser, like the taser scene where like the water
the retractable taser.
50,000
volts,
motherfucker.
Yes. In the beginning of that scene, you see images of Jean-Claude Van Damme's apartment in the dark, and we see that the last thing he was doing before he passed out, I guess, from drinking, what was he drinking? Like tequila, is that he was cutting an onion in half with a food service boning knife. It's got like the big sanitary handle. It's like obvious that they got it from catering.
Yep.
Like, and just stuck it in the onion. What was he doing? Like, that guy wouldn't own a boning knife. There's no way.
He
Well, I
doesn't,
mean,
he
he
didn't know any
doesn't know how
better.
to use it. He
Maybe-
just found
He
it.
just didn't
He
understand.
bought it at a garage sale for like $1, and he was using it to cut up
Yeah,
onions.
he's
for
just
no
like, I just need a
reason.
knife. This one looks
He
fine.
just doesn't shop at the fancy stores
Listen.
Ethan does, where they debone the onions for you.
I think all
Listen,
of this is, like shows is that you just don't understand the character.
Maybe,
Listen,
yeah. He is.
you
he's-
know
he's
that
an
you've had
expert
too much
character.
to drink when you're up in the night, fucking cutting up, deboning onions for no reason.
That's right.
Like everything is
It's-
fucking going bad.
Yeah, he's really dissociating. He's crying from the onions,
So
Right.
but then also thinking
He's
about
used
his
up
wife.
all of his tears. The only way he can cry is to cut up an onion and rub it underneath his eye.
he needs the sweet
shit.
release that the sweet Vidalia is giving
Oh
him.
man.
It's the only way he can achieve some sort of emotional catharsis is to
Cut an
rub an
onion.
onion in his eye.
Yeah. So
That
I
character
It has to be a
hilarious.
boning knife.
Yeah.
think that
Wait, hang on. I want to roll
Speaking
back
of
to the
boning
previous.
knives,
Yeah.
should we talk about the sex scene? Since
Wait.
No, I'm not.
About
I'm
how
not having nightmares.
I,
Let's not
I
restart.
swear to you that Van Damme had a clause in his contract that required his ass be shown in every movie he made at this time. I swear to God.
Well, he definitely showed his ass.
Ah.
What?
This movie's not good.
Oh.
So I before I want to lay this, my biggest problem with this movie is that it has a very, very large plot hole. And when I say that, I don't mean the way that like
Really?
YouTube film critics talk about like it's a plot like this person left the frame and then like 2 scenes later they had a bag of groceries and I didn't see them go to the grocery store. Plot hole, like not
Or
like
a Mass
that.
Effect 3 style
Like-
plot hole where it's just like you don't like the outcome of the
don't
story,
like
so
what
it's
it
a plot
was.
hole.
Right.
Yeah.
No, like this movie literally has a plot hole you can drive a truck through, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But I really would like Ethan to wax rhapsodic for a minute about why he loves this movie so much, because I will say that it was better and worse in different ways than I remembered it. But I definitely do not have the same vibe that Ethan does coming off of this. So I want to know. I want to hear it.
So my memory of this movie, I've seen it before, but I probably haven't seen it in 15 years.
Yeah, same.
My memory of the movie was that it was not very good, but maybe a little bit better than I assumed that it would be, and that I liked Ron Silver as a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe
All
I
of
was
those were wrong.
Well, no, I
Ron
wouldn't
Silver-
say
Ron
that.
Silver's pretty
Ron
good.
Silver's-
Ron
Ron
Silver's
Silver's
pretty
great,
good.
yeah.
He was fine.
Ron Silver just has like his he came out of the womb like born to play just like a sniveling, villain like this in a 90s action movie.
I made the joke earlier, but I really do think that his performance in Blue Steel is legit great, because the really fun thing about that character is he essentially plays like this Wall Street yuppie who witnesses a crime, and it like breaks him like internally and turns him to this like complete like psychopath. But like the funny thing about it is you don't know if he was always this toxic person or if like this just like totally destroyed him, and he has just like so much fun just playing like kind of like this, just like a complete sleazebag who is also just like so passive aggressive and whiny that like there's no glamour to it, and it's a really fun performance in a underrated film. So
Which one did you say that was?
Blue Steel, the Catherine
Okay.
Bigelow, Jamie Lee Curtis one.
I was gonna say that
But
is the one
I
where
think
Jamie
the-
Lee Curtis plays the policewoman that was directed by Catherine
Yes.
Bigelow. But yes, it was. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Glad I was thinking of the
I
right
think
movie.
if I was going to like sum it up like in a succinct way, I think that this is a movie. It is not as good as this movie, so don't jump down my throat. But like Total Recall, it is a dumb movie made for smart people. It does not waste your time. It's in love with its own plot. It's like it knows when to be light. It knows when to like be big and dumb and heavy-handed. It knows when to be subtle, which is never. And
True.
and
Are we talking about Timecop?
It doesn't. No, yeah, it does not have the same vulgarian grandeur of. Your
No, it
Total
absolutely
Recall.
doesn't.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
or-
there's
or
like-
a movie that's not Paul Verhoeven ever will.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
in
like
this
some
genre.
tasteful shots of Mia Sara's breasts as opposed to Total Recall, which is
That was
you know,
very exciting to me when I was like 17 because I had a huge crush on her when I was
Same,
Nice.
yeah.
Also
because
same.
of
but
Ferris Bueller.
Do that, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
because of Ferris Bueller.
legit. Let's not.
Oh, actually, no, but no, actually, there is a moment. I totally forgot to even take a note on this. When the like nerd guy engineer is like, he's like jerking off to VR porn at work, and there's
Yeah.
like,
You
there's
wanna
like
see
a
some
full
awkward
frontal.
writing?
In a
It's not
federal
Dolph Lundgren.
facility, he's doing that.
Yeah, it's like there's bush. I was like, holy shit! I did not remember there being bush in this movie at all.
yeah, they hadn't even
See?
written their big songs yet, but there
That
they
was
were.
why I suggested this is an alternate to pentathlon because there was plenty
Because
of
there's
awkward
bush?
writhing. It's just no, because there was plenty of awkward writhing. It just wasn't Dolph Lundgren doing it in this movie. So.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
one other thing that I would say to defend this movie is I'm of course remembered Van Damme's performance as being really bad because he's really bad in most everything. I think he acquits himself all right in this movie. Especially like in the beginning when he's like doing fine, he sucks ass. He's terrible. But when he is directed to just be like broken inside, one of the only things I wrote down from the movie was my favorite line in the movie, where it's where the character, the one who double crosses him in the past. What's her name?
Lady.
Yeah.
Ethan, can I hit pause for a second here
Yeah.
and just recommend
Sarah-
everyone
Sarah Fielding, according to
everyone else
Wikipedia.
click on Bryce's face so you can watch the emotions happening as Ethan talks.
I was thinking. I actually no. The reason I was emoting so hard was I actually think Ethan makes a good point, and the reason I was making facial expressions is no, because he made me think of something. Because one of the catty comments that I was going to save is that. Honestly, I think my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme performance is him as the sad alligator man in Kung Fu Panda 2. And that's also a film where he's playing a very defeated and broken person. In that case, an alligator whose Kung Fu was not strong enough. And I think that, like, Ethan's actually onto something.
Well, and also,
which is that, like,
isn't his like most well-received movie the one that's like a biographical movie about like a sad version of
about how sad it is to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. And, like, the thing is, I don't find him, like, charismatic or likable at all because I think back to John, where, like, the failure mode of clever is asshole. And, like, that's my thing. It's like, he just always kind of seems like a little bit of a slightly sleazy Eurotrash asshole. And, like, only when he's playing sad versions of himself is he tolerable. So I'm not going to say that I liked his performance in this movie all that much, but I see where Ethan's coming from, and I think he's onto something in a weird way.
Yeah, he's good at playing. I mean, I haven't seen too many of his movies, but I think he's good at playing someone
I have
who
seen
is
too many of his movies.
well, yeah, someone who's broken but is still kind of full of himself.
Yeah.
I think
And I think that's what the movie needed.
I think every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie I've ever seen has been because of you guys. I think it's been because you guys were like, let's do whatever next week.
Have you not seen Bloodsport or Kickboxer? Those movies are legitimately pretty fun.
Yeah, those are good.
I have a friend who claims that the ice hockey film that he made with Powers Booth is pretty fun. So that's the only other Jean-Claude Van Damme film I plan on watching in the rest of my time span.
We did.
Once upon a time,
We
we
did.
did
it.
that
I wasn't on that one, so.
What the
Man, you
death?
missed out. Yeah, there's an
missed out,
amazing
dude.
there's an amazing fight scene in a kitchen in that.
Yes.
Well, since I'm the one who made you all watch Southern Comfort, then you know how I feel about Powers Booth. So I look forward to watching it someday. So.
Yeah, I mean it's Die Hard at a Pittsburgh
Good
Penguins
helicopter
game.
too.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's a
it's a very good
watchable,
helicopter.
low-budget action movie. So it is kind of weird to compare and contrast this with Total Recall, since Total Recall was kind of like because
Good.
like this movie has it's like the biggest problem with this movie is that it's just kind of boring. Like that's really it could have been better.
Too dark to see, and
Right.
Yeah.
He won't be. It's a little bit poochy. We have a time machine, but he won't be saying anything or doing anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what's going on.
Yeah.
This movie
So I wanna
does
ask
have
two
it's got a
questions.
one-liner in it that I think stands up to Arnold's one-liners. The ones that
I
are
guess I made it
supposed-
to Broadway.
Those are the ones that are supposed to be good one-liners in this movie are all dog shit bad. But it has the one which I don't think was intended really to be a big zing line, where they introduce the woman who fucks him over later, and he says, "He messed up my apartment. You can kill him." I thought that was so good.
That was really good.
I actually love that he, like, the guys mess up his apartment and, like, he just throws him through the door and through the banister.
And after that guy was already unconscious.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
If not dead.
So actually, Ethan, you said earlier that this movie knows when to be subtle, which is never. But I will say there is one excellent piece of subtlety in this film, and that is that his wife dies at the beginning, and because he no longer has a woman in his life to tell him he has the worst fucking haircut imaginable after his wife is dead.
What are you talking about?
Wouldn't it have been so good if when he gets out of the pod in the very end, when he's like, corrected
his hair has gone back.
His hair is better.
He's a glorious mane. You stop.
Yeah, so that's the thing that getting to my huge plot hole, the problem that I have with this movie is that the axis it spins on.
Half an hour ago.
Yeah, the axis that this movie spins on is that in the opening we see the Civil War stuff, which is good, and then immediately JCVD is being recruited to join the Timecops, and his house with his pregnant wife inside of it is blown up by evil Senator McComb, except evil Senator McComb does not yet have a reason to go back in time to blow up his house until later in the movie, and they establish that he has not changed the other things yet. That, like, there's stuff that remains unchanged that would have to be changed for him to go back and blow up his house with his wife inside of it, and it just, like, you get to the end of the movie and you're like, that doesn't make any sense in a way that, because again, it's not
very obvious.
Forget it, Joe. That's Timecop.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, but it's not a thing that you can just, like, a lot of time travel movies kind of hand wave stuff away. Like Avengers Endgame did a little bit of that at the end to give one character like a pretty satisfying ending, and I was like, it's fine. But, like, this is a big, like, literally the movie doesn't happen if this thing doesn't happen. So by the magic of plot necessity, this thing that should not be possible happens.
Please share.
Can I share a little bit of wisdom with you? There's an anime I like. It's called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and there's a guy in the 5th part.
Oh boy! All right.
Yeah, and so
okay, I like where this is going. Yeah.
You've seen it, Eric. You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
So the main character at the end gets this, like, special power, and
is it to punch people really hard and go ro 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 ro?
That's the guy in part 3.
I thought they all did that.
He
does do that.
He does do that.
All right.
He's just not as good at it as some of the other guys.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets this power that's very complicated. I'm not going to explain it at all. And so people all over the internet, because I can't. And so people all over the internet are like, but I don't understand, because if it does this, like, how blah blah, and then, like, the thing, it's like a meme. Like, people joke about it. They just go, it just works.
Right.
And that's the same attitude you need to take with this, like, what you're talking about. It's like, why did that happen? It shouldn't have happened. It's like, it just worked.
Because it did.
Yeah.
Well,
So here's
right. Again, that's the magic of plot
Yeah.
necessity.
The problem
Exactly,
isn't that there is this plot hole in this time travel movie. The problem is that it's not clever in the way that it does it, because like there's a lot of, like, all time travel movies, or at least almost all of them, have some dumb plot hole or some thing where they try and explain it too much and it doesn't make any sense. But in a movie like 12 Monkeys, or in a story like Chrono Trigger or Looper,
The Terminator,
or even what was the one with Jake Gyllenhaal that was not a great movie?
Darko.
No,
That's
that's
not
the one where he's the one where he's on the train or whatever. The train is going to blow up.
The Duncan Jones one.
Jarhead?
But those movies are all
Source
not Jarhead.
Code.
Source code.
That's it.
Source
I
code.
don't
Those movies
know,
all have
military guy.
Those movies all have a way more clever way to, like, loop the time thing back around in at the end of this plot. But in this movie, it's just like we replay the first scene, but it's slightly different, but you don't know why they were there in the first place. So it doesn't.
Right. The explanation would be
when it happened.
The explanation would be they were there for a different reason the first time, but they don't, like, but they clearly weren't, because they even show the same shot of McComb in the window.
Right.
I think
Like,
it's worth noting too that those are all, like, much better movies, and it's way easier to forgive, like, a plot hole when, say, like, the world building is engaging and the performances are good and the plot is interesting, when all you have is this gimmick and some like bad kung fu, like there's not much to forgive it for. You have no reason to overlook it.
On the contrary, I feel like if you are a serious movie that wants you to buy into the time travel setup the way they've done it, then if you think about something too hard and it unravels it, then you're really disappointed. Whereas here, they clearly didn't give a shit, so when you point that out, you're just like, okay.
I'm gonna go back and like metaphor this. Like, I don't know if you can like from I really like. I don't know if you can like take a pen and paper and make everything in Looper make sense, but it makes sense like emotionally, and it makes sense metaphorically, and it makes sense thematically. So like, yeah, I'll wink and like let it work. You know, also because it works on these other levels.
Some movies do things that are clever as well, right? That like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like, there's the whole scene where he's like, Ted, don't forget to wind your watch, and you're like, oh, that's good that he reminded him, and then you get. But because that already happened, he cannot remember to wind his watch, right? And so there's like a clever thing in that movie. Oh, actually, a lot of the stuff in the Bill and Ted movies is clever about time travel, where you, like, there's this scene at the end of Bogus Journey where, like, they're like, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to set up all this stuff. And the bad guy's like, oh, but then I'm going to set stuff up. And then they're like, you can't, because we already set stuff up. And, like, you can't undo the things that we already did because it already happened. And, like, this movie just makes no effort to do that at all. It's just like, yeah, the bad guys are there at the beginning, and then they're there at the end. And, like, even though a bunch of stuff happened in the middle that would preclude them from being there in the beginning, they're still there in the beginning.
I'll also point out that it would have been maybe slightly more interesting if the guy was changing time to, like, tweak his chances to become president. But instead his whole plan is, I'm just going to steal a bunch of money from the past so I can have more money for my campaign.
He's not going to steal it necessarily.
Right. The thing is he was invested in the company that made the time travel machines.
Right.
And so
or made the computers that ran the time travel machines or whatever.
Right. Yeah. He got out because he didn't think that they were going to work, and then when he found out that they worked, he tried to take the one to go back in time to stop his previous self from getting out of that investment.
Right. And then, also he sent the crooked time cop back to
go buy stocks. Like, I want to know how many other failed money-making schemes that he had.
Robbing the Confederacy.
Like, besides what you just said, he had a whole bunch of other money-making schemes, and I'm not quite clear why.
Well, also,
here's
that's how you win the presidency, Anthony.
Does anyone else find it weird how resistant 1994 Ron Silver is when he meets 2004 Ron Silver? Because he acts like he's a total stranger, but he looks and acts and talks exactly
everybody does that. They do that. They all do that when they see JCVD as well. Like his wife is like, "Who are you?" And it's like, well, okay, really?
No. She says what happened because suddenly her boyfriend's hair is hideous.
Right.
Where did you get that wig?
And then, like,
when he go to Supercuts,
the dudes at the end, who are dudes from 2004 who have come back to try to get him, when he pops out on the porch, they're like, "Who is that?" And it's like, he's the dude you came here to kill. Like,
why
what
are you there?
Yeah. Like what?
I have another question. Why does Bruce McGill...
Wait. But the guy who invented the, like, computer whatever cooling system, he instantly got it.
Right.
Like the second.
Well, it's because he's working in time travel.
Like, oh, where are you from? Yeah,
Yeah, he is also he's the only character, and this is why I think that this plot hole maybe is like, you could sell me on that it's not a plot hole. None of the characters in this movie understand the technology. That guy might be the only one. They, like, the people who are briefing the president at the beginning, they don't understand it, and of course, like, Van Damme doesn't understand it. Ron Silver doesn't understand it because he's like Donald Trump.
Right. Just like Donald Trump. It's fucking frightening. I feel like in 1994, even as a 12-year-old, I felt like he was overwritten and too heavy-handed. But it turns out, no.
Yeah, I thought that it was like kind of weak motivation for him. That's like, wait, he's going to make all this money just so he can run a campain? Like, that's how...
Yeah, why doesn't he just steal it?
Even,
but that's what actually happened.
In the back of that car, that guy tells him that it's going to cost $50 million in order to
get the network
TV
time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's more like $200 or $300 million. But
no, but actually, it turns out if you're like a big outrageous asshole, the networks will just give it to you for free.
Right. Crazy.
Right. I was gonna say the only thing that this movie is missing is, instead of being like like all that matters is TV. He should have been all that matters is a social media platform where people are just assholes to each other.
Well, no, he was 20. He
continuously
was
on the loop.
2004, not 2014. So,
Right.
Yeah.
This
movie accurately predicted that social media wouldn't exist in 2004.
That's right.
See?
That's right.
Yeah, they were ahead
There
of
you
their
go.
time.
I
There you
think
go.
so. I think that this. I do like that the way that this has big widescreen TVs mounted in walls.
Yes.
Is, like all of the screens
And people
stuff in
are
this movie
still-
hold up way better than even more modern movies,
Yeah.
like
And-
as far as the late '90s when everybody still was on 4x3 CRT
Yeah.
monitors.
And this movie also accurately predicted that people would stretch their old home videos to 16:9 when watching on those TVs.
It would look like total
And
garbage.
they would look
yeah.
like total shit.
Yep. Look, Jean-Claude Van Damme does not know how to change the aspect ratio of his TV and the TV settings.
His little TV. Yeah,
He's too busy drinking and cutting up onions.
That's right.
Or so one of the only other weak, maybe the only other weak thing that this movie does besides
The only other.
The only
besides
other.
besides the food service boning knife and onion is the performance that JCVD's wife gives in the video where she's putting together the birdhouse or whatever it is like a performance that David Lynch would have made that way on purpose.
But do you think
yeah,
that Peter
I'm in on
Hyams
that.
made it that way on purpose? Because like that's not.
I think probably not.
So I feel like
So,
Ethan, I feel like what you're doing is what the Darth Jar Jar people on like Star Wars forums do.
What are you talking about?
Where so there's this fan theory. I'm gonna keep it super short. There's a fan theory among certain sects of Star Wars nerds that Jar Jar Binks was meant to be a Sith Lord the whole time, and there's a bunch of hints in Episode 1 that you can tell, but then like the studio made Lucas not, even though Lucas owned the studio made Lucas cut that stuff out for episodes 2 and 3. But like if you watch episode 1, there's all this stuff where like, and it's just bad filmmaking, but like there's a bunch of people who want those movies to be good, so they're doing all the heavy lifting for George Lucas's like shitty writing to be like, no, look, that means that Jar Jar was actually like the guy above Darth Sidious. Whoa!
People
And I feel like
will,
Ethan is
bend
doing
over
that.
backward, make their ship.
I think that it's,
To this
it's pretty
movie.
amazing to see Star Wars Episode 2 as a movie where where somebody actually saved him from himself, because what else would it have been?
But if episode 2 is the one where someone saved him from himself, how did it turn out to be the worst of all
Yeah.
Star Wars movies?
Yeah.
No.
Think about how bad it could have been.
Episode 2's got maybe 30 to 35 watchable minutes in it.
No,
That puts
no,
it
it
ahead
doesn't.
of-
No, it
that puts
doesn't.
it
No, it
far
doesn't.
ahead of Rise of Skywalker. The whole Coliseum scene is a watchable scene.
No, it's
That is
not.
maybe the best sequence in the prequels.
When's the last time
Not-
you watched it?
Before Force Awakens came out.
And
Yeah.
also, the sand,
it's like a
the
John
fucking,
Carter on Mars.
the fucking sand
It's not.
conversation is so agonizing that it takes
Right,
away
right,
20 of
right.
those
That's the
minutes.
But that's the scene in the entire Star Wars series that I probably quote the most often in real life. So I think that's redeeming.
Bryce,
When
we're
we're
far enough
all I can say
away.
is-
If we rolled out episode 9 and you tried to like sandwich together 35 minutes of enjoyable cinema, I bet you could do it.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't know if you could, honestly.
I would. No, here's the
Well,
thing.
it just
is that,
jumps
you know,
from scene to scene, so it doesn't really matter if you what order you watch it
Right.
anyway.
All I can say is that when episode 9 first came out, like I actually wasn't that negative on it. I was kind of comparing it to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where like people have been shitting on it for so long before I saw it. Then when I saw it, and it wasn't like a complete disaster. Like
I also
I gave it.
I also grew to
as a-
dislike
here's
it
the thing.
more as I walked further. The further away I got from it, the more I disliked it.
In retrospect, here's the thing:
Yeah, I'm with Joe.
is that I thought that Force Awakens was a perfectly cromulent film, and I thought that Last Jedi is an actually very good film.
Yes,
And
agreed.
because of how bad Rise of Skywalker, I feel like Rise of Skywalker actually retroactively destroyed those two movies. Like I don't think I
Yeah,
can.
no, absolutely.
Eh,
Yeah.
eh.
And so
I'm not
say
big
what
on
you will
that.
about-
I'm not big on
say
that in
what you-
general.
Yeah, say what you will about Attack of the Clones, it did not retroactively destroy the 4 movies before it. Like I didn't watch Attack of the Clones and be like, I can't watch the rest of Star Wars, and like I feel like that reaction with Rise of
I mean,
Skywalker. I can't go back and watch them.
But also, Palpatine fucks. So I mean, at least there's that.
Yes. Palpatine does fuck.
I desperately need a
But
shirt.
not on camera. God damn it.
So Time Cop.
Rise of Skywalker is like if A New Hope met itself, whatever, like 35 years in the future, and they touched
And turned into goo.
Goo, yes, that's exactly what it's like.
I really wish. So first of all, I remembered that scene differently than it happens in this movie. Like
I did too. I conflated it with where the guy gets frozen. I thought that he turned into that weird CGI frozen shit.
It's funny, as much as I've complained about that scene, I do have to admire it a little bit, like, aside from the sloppy-ass setup, for just, like, going full-on David Cronenberg. Like,
the only problem is it's like the arm, though, because it's, like, 1994-ass CG instead of just, like, a practical, like, dump of slime or, like, you know, Ghostbusters ectoplasm that they, like, composited in at some point. It's this hideous CG thing.
But there's a part where you can see some teeth, and
that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
It's sub-Lawnmower Man CG for sure. So,
but if it was like I don't know, did anybody see Color Out of Space yet? Has anybody seen that?
No, not yet.
No,
I heard it's good.
Yet.
It is good.
Yeah.
There's a really great creature effect in that movie, and I can't explain it because it would spoil the shock of when you see the creature effect. But it's like it's practical effect. It's very similar to some of the effects in The Thing, where it's like these two things are mashed together and it's just like this effect could have been 2 Ron Silvers as a practical effect, just like melted together, and it would have been super dope. But instead it's this like, it looks like a computer took a shit in the middle of the screen. And 1994 CG was real fucking bad, unless you had Spielberg money, you know. I don't know.
Word. I do not disagree with any of that statement.
So should we move on to pentathlon now?
Kinda. Let me, because I was thinking, because Eric was talking about how pentathlon had a lot of, the idea of it had more promise than the movie did.
As does Timecop.
So I was gonna say, how would you guys approve Timecop? Like, you're given this first draft, you can make a draft 2, and I'm not saying just like scrap it. Because, like, for example, as a minor note, like, in the last few scenes in the house, I was really expecting them to play with the two Jean-Claudes, like, fighting but dodging each other so they don't touch each other. Like, that could have been cool if you, like, did that idea.
That could have been cool.
There's a lot of things they did in this movie that.
So, like,
that could have been cool.
What would you improve?
So I would have made. I would have.
The very first thing that you need to do is have them go to other eras.
Yeah.
Not just.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just the present in a slightly different future. It has to. They have to go to. It has to be more like.
Back to the Future 2.
You have to
Bill
have
and
time
Ted.
travel in
Or Bill and Ted.
Yeah, time travel film.
Yeah.
So, and I
I'd
think.
even be okay with random Highlander-esque like flashbacks.
So you
like,
want
remember
you
that
want it to be
time?
more like TMNT 3.
Right. Also, you need to make the villain have some personal motivation for wanting to change the past and influence the future, rather than just pile a bunch of money up so he can pay for TV advertisements and become president.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I'm trying to think of a good way around, like, them killing his wife in the beginning and then still being there at the end without the... Right. Like, there's got to be a way that you can...
make that seem clever.
Not everything can have the same elegance as the Belisarius memorandum, so, you know, what are you going to do?
Like,
this movie does have one... There's one note in this movie that was similar, I thought, to Bill and Ted, that's, you know, apart from just the thematic contents, and that's that in this future that the movie creates, it's much like in the weird, like, crystal chamber in Bill and Ted way in the future, you know, where there's the council or whatever.
Yeah.
Where we're ruled under the guiding hand of Clarence Clemens.
Yeah. There is in this movie. There's another, like, weird, like, clandestine, underlit, like, judge, jury, and executioner, like, government chamber.
They never expound on that.
Yeah,
it's never explored.
And sentence somebody to instant death. And then they, like, basically put the guy in the.
They put him back to the
It was it was Sele. This was a stealth Evangelion adaptation the entire time.
Yeah, I think that would have been an interesting, like, for me personally, and just like my personal hangups, I think it would have been interesting to tease out the idea of like the time crimes are punished by this, tribunal who, like, there is no jury involved and there is no he has no legal counsel, and how do you deal with that while also simultaneously like not letting the world know about time travel? I think there's like maybe some interesting stuff you can pick at there. Either that or just like get rid of the instant death tribunal. Got more into
the day-to-day thing of being a time cop. Because like that's actually because that like
what if you made it into like a TV
talk about
show?
The world building, like you talk about the world building, like that's actually kind of interesting because once again, sorry, I didn't intend to like mention this like 3 times, but like the idea that but it does kind of remind me of some of the stuff in Looper where the idea is like in this world like time travel is such a big crime that it's literally punishable by death, and then it's so punishable by death that they're not even going to put the body like in the present day. They're going to like put it back in the past so no one like expects it. So that that little 10-second clip of the weird military tribunal has more interesting ideas in it than like literally the rest of the movie. Like, so expand on that a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
like, my brain is working overtime to figure out a way to make the beginning, like to make his wife's death somehow tied in so that it works at the end.
Right. Can we talk about how the end doesn't make sense? Because we kind of glossed over that.
So
right?
the thing about the end, a lot of this, a couple of times that he goes back and then comes back and things are changed. I feel like if you worked in the time police department, that would be at least not like, I mean, their goal is to stop things from being changed, so it shouldn't happen all the time, but you'd think it would happen at least with enough frequency that when people come back and go like, oh, this has changed, that they would like take that seriously.
If there's a guy wandering around kind of confused and making cryptic comments, you might be like, all right, dude, you need to like go to the reprogramming office to get a heads up on what this time is like, because
or to tell us what is different from what's different from your timeline so that we can go fix it, because that's what we're supposed to do. That's literally our fucking job.
They put him in front of a big screen and they read Nabokov to him and see how he reacts.
This is the reason why no one ever is ready for that reaction when somebody gets out of the pod and things are weird to them, is because nobody in this movie understands time travel, and they don't understand that every time you travel and then you come back to your time, you are creating a new fork off the timeline. And this is as far as everyone else who in the world that you're arriving at knows. They have already existed in this universe. When you transport back to that world, you have generated that timeline, past, present, and future. So every time anyone hops through time in this, they're forking off the entire universe, which is eventually what will destroy the universe.
Right, but this movie doesn't care about that. So
maybe this was all covered
a really deep movie.
Maybe this was all covered in the sequel, Timecop 2: The Berlin Decision, starring Jason Scott Lee. So
Jason Scott Lee is the time cop in the second one?
He is the time cop in the second one.
Wow.
So the thing about like what we were just talking about is like if you've ever watched Star Trek, it's a show where every episode something weird happens in space, and usually somebody goes crazy because like an alien takes over their brain, right?
Alex,
what are your thoughts on Picard?
It's dog shit. Anyway, so
I haven't been watching it. I've just been watching the Red Letter Media like recaps of it, and it's been a thing. Been quite a thing.
It's definitely a thing.
Even as someone who has like watched like 12 hours of Star Trek media in their life, I realize that they're fucking it up. So
don't make me sad. I'm busy. I'm talking. All right.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Bring Star Trek. Since we already compared Star Wars to Time Cop, bring the Star Trek thing around.
We're gonna bring Star Trek on board. The thing is, so like that happens a lot in Next Generation specifically because it's the one I've seen the most and give the most examples of. But like, you know, it's like if they didn't, somebody will have something crazy to them. And then, like, they go up to their friends. They're like, "Hey, man, this crazy shit's happening. I'm going crazy." And then they're like, "Nah, dude, everything's fine. Like, this isn't one of those weird things that happens every week." It's like, dude, weird shit happens every week. Why would you not think this is one of those things? But the reason why they react that way is because if they didn't, there'd be no show. Same thing here. It's like when the dude shows up in the past.
Not really, though, because, like, he just is like, he's like, "No, in my timeline, we're best friends, and you'd help me." And he's like, "Well, if you say so." then I'll help you.
So in
It
that,
is a little
You
weird
did.
that
thing that's
My
weird is
wife
that
does
in
make
that-
goulash, so
the goulash is too salty for one
Yeah,
thing.
right.
And second thing, it's not even that he doesn't.
Maybe it's
They're not
perfectly
friends.
balanced.
He doesn't even know him in this timeline. He doesn't even know who he is. They don't recognize him, which seems weird.
Also,
Yeah.
there's no way Van Damme he's using the boning knife to cut up an onion. There's no fucking way he would know properly seasoned food.
Well, yeah, but maybe.
Well, maybe
it
that's
is
just what he
probably
complains
seasoned
about
and-
every time. Like they eat at his, he goes over for dinner, and then afterwards he's like, "Damn, man, my wife puts too much salt in this goulash every fucking time." And that's what Van Damme is referencing. Not necessarily that he thinks there's too much salt, but that he knows.
Now I think you're
That
giving this
Bruce
movie too much
McGill-
credit.
It's Ethan's fault.
So,
Okay. Well, true.
Also,
guys-
Darth Jar Jar is definitely a thing, and George
Wait,
Lucas
we never
is
got to
actually
why
a
the ending
genius.
doesn't make
Wait, hang
sense. We got sidetracked.
Also,
Yeah, go ahead.
goulash is Hungarian and not Belgian, so why would he be an expert on that? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I feel
point.
like you probably have opinions on tacos, and you're not. You know what? Never mind.
you guys
Alex,
have-
why
you
doesn't
guys
the
have-
ending make
wait,
sense?
you guys have name dropped Bill and Ted a few times, so I just want to say that one of the alternate timelines.
Timecop, the
I want
movie
them
that
to-
makes us think about other better time
Other
travel
movies.
Yeah,
movies.
right. Exactly. I want one of the times they go back to in our Timecop remake to be Al Leong playing Genghis Khan.
Okay, so who was the actor, by the way, who played the knife dude that shows up in his apartment? Because it wasn't
guy-
Al
It
Leong.
was Shang Tsung.
It was
right?
Shang Tsung.
No,
I
it's not Shang Tsung. I was watching it on Amazon. They had a little thing on the side that had the names of all the actors, and it was not one that I recognized. So I don't know.
do you
but-
recognize
There's one
Shang,
thing Alex
the
would
actor who
recognize.
played
It's the
Shang
name of the
Tsung?
guy that played Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat.
It's
movie.
Carrie
like
like
the-
Hiroyuki something. Hang on, I do know his name, Hiroyuki Kagawa. Thank you, Google, for the assist.
If you don't know his name, you looked it up.
Yeah,
I
see.
knew 2/3 of it, literally. So
That's 2/3 more than you.
yeah, so fuck off.
He's credited. His name is James Liu, and he's credited as Knife One in the in the credits.
I was about to say that. Yeah, it's great because when that little thing popped up in the
Number one.
corner, I was like, "Knife one, awesome."
He was one of the Chang Sings in Big Trouble in Little China, of course.
Hmm.
He's a stuntman, it looks like, mostly. Also, that fight scene was dog shit because that dude, he does the thing that really bothers me when I see fight scenes that do this, where there's a weapon-based fight scene, and he's attacking Van Damme's knife instead of trying to attack Van Damme. Like, Van
Yes!
Damme is just holding his knife out, and he's, like, slashing it at Van
He's just
Damme's
moving,
knife.
he's just rotating his wrists left and right while the other guy's just fucking going nuts. Like, and they put a million like sword shing sound effects in
Mhm.
there. Like, yeah, to make
You
it
gotta,
sound like
you gotta
he's
reduce
carrying
the
it,
knife's
but he's
armor
not.
completely before you can land a blow on him.
Yeah, I got it. That's that video game we're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the ending doesn't make sense because he comes back, everything's fixed now, his wife's alive now, and he's like, "Oh, I have a 10-year-old son." But
Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't.
absolutely fucked in the end.
He like doesn't remember those 10 years. He doesn't. That's all new to him. So he's like now coming into this life where he has like a wife who's known him for 10 years, a son who's known his father for 10 years, and now a completely different person
Right.
who is him is now
that's
taking
one of the
over.
dangers
So wait,
of time travel.
are what you saying, Alex, is that it is not his beautiful wife and it's not his beautiful house?
My God,
How
what
did
has
I
he
get
done?
here?
How's he done? You know what? Yeah, we do have a moment though, like where, like, yeah, if he finds that life like this hellish lie that he can't live, and he goes back in time to re-murder his wife, that would be the true time cop.
That could be an
shit,
interesting.
that's-
yeah.
That's the Berlin decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then Jason Scott Lee needs to go back and.
I
Stop
mean, I don't think the ending doesn't, like, they don't address that. I don't think it doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense. Like, he's happy because he didn't want his wife to be dead, and he's been tortured about it for 9 years, and I think he's just gonna play it by ear for a little while.
I mean, we already established that it's a pretty good home movie hookup, so he's just gonna be like desperately watching home movies like every night, trying to like fill in those gaps.
I will say that's one of the few things, since we're talking about other time travel movies. I don't know if The Butterfly Effect is an other better time travel movie, but it is an other time travel movie. And one of the only things that I like about The Butterfly Effect is that every time Ashton Kutcher changes something in that movie, he has like a freakish migraine where his brain is processing all of the memories of the different timeline. on top of his existing memories, which is an interesting thing that because there's so many time travel movies, like someone changes something and then they pop back in and they're like, what is all this? I don't know what's going on. And that's the only one I can think of where the character has to like grapple with like that and Looper, actually. That and Looper, where they have to deal with like Bruce Willis is forgetting his life and remembering the version that is happening as Joseph Gordon-Levitt is changing things. And then Butterfly Effect, which is like, again, not a very good movie, but that aspect of it of he changes something and then he has like his brain rewrites itself to insert all these memories that he didn't have before of what is the new timeline now is actually like pretty interesting concept. This movie obviously does not even like try to do anything like that, but
so what do you think happened to, so if he goes back, he fixes the whole, he repairs his timeline that he ends up in, his fork of time so that he gets to basically, he's got his wife and kid, but they regard him as just like, this is like the husband / dad who's just gotten home from work.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
The person who existed the day before, who was just leading a normal ass, whole, satisfying life,
Gone.
is dead. He killed that person.
He's not dead. He never
the dangers of time travel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why
this movie is not interested in having that conversation, but it doesn't not make sense. The setup doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So it's a good movie because it's encouraging discussion.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right, so
who
you guys
watched Timecop 2: The Berlin Decision?
You guys have access to a time machine. How do you go back in time to make money? How do you make yourselves rich?
I mean, I feel like the easiest, and like, I feel like the Biff Tannen plan is probably the most foolproof, which is just like,
where do you get the money to make the bets?
You can, you
go back in time
like,
and work for a couple of years to save up some funds. To
I mean, if you're gonna make that much money, it's probably worth it. But I would probably go back to like a time when I had like a decent sized savings bond or something, like right after college, and I would just go tell myself, hey, instead of taking that $800 and going like down to Florida to like wrestle at Dory Funk's school for a week, instead, bet it all on, like, I would have to try to pinpoint what was like the longest shot World Series or the longest shot, like go back and bet it. Actually, I'd probably just go back a little ways and be like, I'm going to, at the beginning of the season, bet it all on the St. Louis Blues, or like right before the Blues go on their big winning jag, when like a mid-season break, they were the worst team in the league.
Right. This is boring now.
Bet it all on the St. Louis Blues.
Anybody else got a more interesting one than the one they saw?
Yeah, I'd kill Hitler and bet money that I couldn't kill Hitler.
See, Alex is thinking. I like the.
I'm a absolute firm believer in the idea that there is a certain dollar amount that makes people go completely insane and just become a craven motherfucker. I don't know. I think it's like somewhere between $1 and $5 million. So what I would do is I would figure out like what amount of money where that would leave me just like chill. I would be like, just me now, but I would have some cooler stuff and I would chill.
You're gonna perform complex social experiments on alternate versions of yourself to figure out how much money to be yourself, so that way
I'm not looking for the threshold. I'm a safe amount. So like, let's throw out a safe amount.
I see what you're saying, but I know what you're saying, but that's boring. Wait.
I want to make a movie out of Ethan's. Whatever. You're not.
What Ethan's saying is he's just going to pick a safe amount and get that and stop.
Right. I'm going to
Eric is way better because what Eric's saying is Ethan is going to go to alternate timelines of other past Ethans, varying amounts, and see who ends up the best.
And then travel into the future and see how they make out.
Increments of $500 all the way up to $10 million. And each one is going to be like an ant farm of myself.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
I would definitely watch that movie.
That would have to be a mini series. I think.
It's like it's like Multiplicity meets like
Bill and Ted
time travel. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's like Sliders, kind of. Well, Sliders is like one of those ant farms.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so what about you, Eric? You're telling me that my idea sucks. What's your big idea to go back and make your past self rich?
I I'm not.
You know what?
Not gonna
I'd
do
go
it.
back to '92 and then I'd pitch Sliders. Get that Sci-Fi Channel money. You still
Yeah, get
like
those residuals.
Yeah, exactly. It came out pre-streaming, so you'd still get that DVD boom money on it again. You know, $1 for every
Oh,
copy
yeah,
of Sliders sold.
Everybody knows it's all about the sliders. TV
And I
Those
know-
slider
I know-
residuals,
if
man.
you-
Those sliders
Alex,
residuals.
Alex,
prevent the-
if you
the
had
post-
$1 for
slide.
if you had $1 for every copy of Sliders,
Yeah, no,
sold
it-
on
it'd be
DVD,
good.
you'd be a very happy man. Like,
Yeah,
you'd
no,
be-
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna go back in time to
I-
get
you know that-
DVD
you know
I'm
that-
like Ethan. I'm not greedy. I'm not
Yeah,
greedy.
The
I'm
classic
gonna-
turn of
I'm gonna get
phrase.
Sliders
I had
money.
$1 for every DVD of Sliders.
I'm
sold.
just saying, you can do it for something that sold more DVDs.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, but I guess maybe you're just trying to stay humble. I'm
We
not
don't, as we've
appreciating that.
established in Ethan's social experiment, you don't want too much money, or you become
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Well,
How many
yeah,
did it
Turn
sell?
into a
Like,
sociopath.
Once you get
Copies
that
of something, forget
Farscape
about
money,
money.
you don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah, corrupts absolutely.
You don't want the Farscape is a bridge too far, man. It's too much. That's where you turn into a sociopath when you get the Farscape money. Yeah,
Talk
definitely.
about the Buffy
Galactica,
money, then
forget
you're really
about it.
fucked.
Definitely. Oh my god.
So wait, which one of us tried to stomach an episode of the Timecop TV show? Who was that again?
I watched 2 minutes of it. Does that
How'd
count?
that go?
That's
Yeah.
they got the furthest.
So it's a very shitty TV set, and it's like late 1800s England, and a guy who's very clearly Jack the Ripper is like stalking a woman, and he pulls a knife out and is about to kill her, and then another guy comes up behind him and like snaps his neck, and she goes
Sounds
like,
good.
"Oh, you saved me," and he goes like, "Yeah," and he says her name. She's like, "How do you know my name?" He says, "You're famous. You were killed by Jack the Ripper." And she says, "But you just killed him." And then he just pulls out a knife, which for some reason like has electricity on it. And he just goes, "No, I became him."
Oh,
And then he stabs her, and then I was like, "Okay, I don't know if I can
I'm
watch
glad
it."
to go this
Right there.
episode of Timecop.
Yeah, why did you stop watching is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to
we
figure out.
should we should have watched that instead.
We should have.
So it's on YouTube to answer the question of
Future
how.
episode.
So-
I think all of them are on YouTube because there's only 9 episodes.
Yeah, probably.
And I didn't watch it, but I did skip through it, and it is very much like a very shitty, low-budget Sci-Fi Channel TV show.
Yeah, so like I said in
from
the email,
1996
I said in the email thread, I feel like that was somewhat contemporaneous with Stargate SG-1, which like against all
Yeah,
odds
probably.
became a very popular show, even though that movie isn't good and like the show was not good, and the show also doesn't have hardly anything to do with the movie, near as I could tell. But it got like that show went on for and then had like an additional spin-off where they were like in
There's
the ocean or
spin-offs,
something. I don't even know. Like
I think it had 2 or 3 spin-offs, if I'm not like even.
Yeah, I think it did.
wrong. Like,
Yeah.
that is bizarre to me, but like that there was a Total Recall like series on Showtime for like a season or 2 around the same time.
Has anyone ever here watched the RoboCop show?
I was gonna say there was a RoboCop show which I did not watch, and there was a what was the other one that I was just thinking of that also did.
They
not
tried a
last.
Blade show.
They did try
Just
a
because they
Blade
take
show.
every excuse to bring this up.
Oh, they tried a Crow show.
If anyone out there
They
is
did
listening,
try. Oh, the
please
Crow
make-
show is real bad.
Please just make a show like Cops, but with RoboCop in it.
You do pitch that all the
Want
time,
that
and I still
idea
think
so
that would be
much.
good.
I would,
Yeah,
I,
that'd be
I
good.
would once again buy that for $1.
Um, What was the? No, there's another. Like, there was a middling sci-fi movie in that time frame that also got. Oh, Universal Soldier. There was a Universal Soldier TV
Oh,
show.
Cube.
Was there? There was not a Cube.
Didn't the
TV
I don't think there's a
sequel
Cube
have
show,
Goldberg in it, I mean?
Just-
Listen,
I
Alex,
just
if there was a
wish there
Cube
was.
show, I fucking would have watched that
Yeah,
shit.
right.
I know.
There was a really bad
a man
syndicated
can
Conan
candy.
show. That was real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That stuff was
Okay.
all over for
These
some
are
reason
television
in
shows
that
We're
from
just
the
time.
talking
90s,
about
folks.
random TV. We're just
Well, no,
this
this was like that was like
we
the end
are.
of the
Hey, we have
podcast.
established that we're all now rambling old men.
Right.
So they know what they're tuning in.
All right, I'll
for.
we
take
used
this
to be
in a
rambling young men, and now you know.
Yes,
But
now we're rambling
we-
old men.
I'll
but
take
that
this
but
in a
all that
different
was like the
direction.
zeitgeist at the time was like,
Joe.
oh, there's a sci-fi or fantasy movie that did
Joe had an
okay.
onion on his
Joe,
back, which was
Joey,
his file at the
Joey.
time.
Joe, we need to.
Which he was deboning.
Joe, Joe, we need to go back so we can be rambling young men together.
Yes, indeed.
Did you guys notice how quiet all the guns are in this movie?
They're
future guns.
the future
They are
guns,
truly
and they've got big
extremely
honking
quiet,
future
man.
They're very
silencers
quiet guns,
on
I
them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, guys, how good would a movie be if it was called Crime Cop?
All right, that's it.
Yeah, that's
done.
We're not
okay.
getting
Wait.
any better than
So
that.
did anybody
wait.
attempt to watch Timecop 2: The Berlin Decision? Do we
No.
have any
Future
idea what it's
episode.
about? Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna cover that.
The Berlin decision.
Nothing.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Timecop 2, the Belisarius Mandarandum. So join us next week for next month for Robot Jocks and /or Fortress.
I'm stumping hard for Robot Jocks on the next episode. I'm
Yeah,
putting that
same.
out there.
I mean, we already established it's G Gundam, so I think I'm also gonna hit
Yeah, sounds
hard
good.
for yeah.
Okay.
But wait, hang on. Before we end,
Sure.
we have to say one. There was only one time where I actually reacted to anything in this movie, which was
Huh?
in the sex scene with Mia Sarah. Jean-Claude like sticks his tongue out and kind of like boops her face with
I
it.
physically cringed at that scene.
I recoiled and went, ugh.
Yeah.
You don't just like tongue punch your lover's forehead ever when you're in the
I was
midst
like
of the
not
act.
ready for that. Like I'm.
That was
Maybe-
Wiseau-esque.
And I felt bad for Mia Sarah. I was like, she had to like sit there and let him do that. Like,
It's in the script, Alex.
like I mean, I don't know if she let him do that or if that just happened to her and she had to like just like deal with it. You know what I mean? Like it was like I just was so. I'm upset about it now, thinking about it. I'm like, that was horrifying. Like, God,
It wasn't good.
it wasn't good.
It wasn't
it's
good.
not good.
There are some
Ugh.
actors and action
Yeah,
stars that you feel
Yeah.
like have a certain, sensual energy, and you can kind of go there. And from like
2008 Rambo.
like,
What about 2018 Rambo or whatever?
No, 2008 Rambo is vastly superior.
That's
to
the one that wants to
2019
fuck.
Rambo.
for
But
sure.
yeah, but JCVD just is not, and he's sort of prototypically good
2008
looking, I
Rambo,
guess. But
2019 Emperor Palpatine.
yes.
Yeah, these are people who fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Van Damme it's
Yeah,
awkward for me.
without the mullet and the wife beater and the Caucasian accent, he's just got nothing going for him. So what can you say?
Are you saying that you thought he
No
did
hard
have the raw
target.
sexual energy in
You
Hard
hard
Target?
target?
Well, I was being facetious, Joe. It's
okay.
when you make a comment without entirely meaning it.
Yes. No,
Yes.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Alex has heard of that? I thought Alex was
Yeah.
dead serious all the time. Shit.
100%, baby.
Well, I think that's it
It's all
for
about
this
Star Trek.
installment of the Action Cast. Thanks everybody for
We're
watching.
mercifully calling it.
Yeah. But we'll be back
So we'll
next
be back
month
on-
with Robot
Was on
Jocks.
May 11th.
Yeah, the second
Right.
Monday of every month.
Oh, wait. Now I remember. I was like, no, we're forgetting something really big.
Jesus Christ.
The other thing that I liked in this movie is he takes a dude and flips his shotgun around and shoots him in the balls, and his one-liner
Yeah.
is, "That's gotta hurt." And I was like, come on, man.
I couldn't tell
True.
this. Yeah.
I kept wanting him to say like I was having like an Inglorious Bastards moment where I wanted him to just be like, say goodbye to your Nazi balls, but like
Yeah.
it just that's gotta hurt, and I'm like,
I mean, he's not wrong. It does.
Actually,
I'm sure it does hurt quite a bit, yes.
He says "Have a nice day" after 2 separate kills. Although one of them is the one where he says afterwards, "I should have said freeze." So I don't. Maybe the script is brilliant, and they're making fun of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Maybe
I
we
agree with
missed
you,
it
this
all.
movie's great.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, thanks everybody who was on the panel this evening, and thanks everybody who listened to this whole thing. Good lord. And we'll be back next month with Robot Jocks, second Monday of every month at 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time. That's when you can now find the Action Cast. We're back,
7:30
baby.
Pacific time.
Yeah.
And someone in the
Yeah.
chat says someday we still need to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Yes, we do.
I don't have the babies sound drop, I'm afraid, so...
Oh, come
We
on.
still need to do
sorry.
fucking Fury
Ah.
Road, the film that we talked about for
Oh, is
every
that good?
episode for 5 years and then
Yes.
dissolved right before it came out.
Yep.
I actually don't
Weeks
think we should do
before it
Fury
came out.
Road because it's too good. We want
Yeah,
anything to
I'm
talk about.
afraid.
I kind of want to do Beyond Thunderdome, actually.
I'd be
Yeah,
down.
I would rather do that one.
That's such a weird movie because it's 45 great minutes at the beginning and 25 great minutes at the end, and then just
A whole bunch
lot
of
middle.
Yeah, the too much
Yeah.
middle. All right, thanks everybody for watching. I'm killing the stream now. Good night. We'll be back in a month.
Bye.
Bye.